Hey everyone, Mr. Wineland here, in my home little office. Gonna talk a little bit about imperialism and America. Now, to be fair, when we're gonna talk about this, imperialism is definitely not an American policy, but it definitely was thriving during the late 1800s into the 1900s. The imperialistic days can be very dark, depending on how you view it or perceive it. It's kind of viewed as a new age of nationalism and growth in world building and in countries, power dominance, however you want to describe it. But it's also in many ways very offensive in some aspects, as well as very dangerous and ultimately will lead to war. So we're going to talk about this and just know that imperialism. There's really no glory to it. Yes, there were some benefits to it, but it really did cause a lot more problems in our world than it did help. And we're going to talk a little bit about Hawaii and its origins, but 1893, Queen Lula Kanali realized of her reign that her reign in Hawaii had come to an end when more than 160 U.S. sailors and Marines stood ready to aid the Holas, the white foreigners who planned to overthrow the Hawaiian monarchy. And she kind of, at this point in time, realized the United States was going towards a new way of really establishing themselves and forcing them to be in a situation where no matter the territory, they had a lot of strength and the ability to annex any country that they wanted to. And so we're going to talk more about Hawaii later on, but just kind of want to get you set for that. But we see that Americans wanted to basically increase or expand the size of their nation throughout the 19th century. We start to see um, that we started to make our way during the Mexican American War, that we were able to expand our territory towards the Pacific and throughout the 19th century. But by the 1800s, we start to see more leaders step in with the imperialistic powers, as we see that overseas, in Europe is doing the same by establishing colonies themselves. And your answer number four is here in blue. But imperialism was a policy in which stronger nations extend their economic, political, and military control over weaker territories. So what we start to see is that the countries are using their military strength to attack weaker ones. One, to increase their political influence because, hey, you have more land, you're in more territories now, you cover more ground. And then two, for economic purposes, for resources. Resources dwindle within their nation. And so this was an opportunity to gain access to more resources that you were running out of or need for your own selfish reasons. We start to see that expansion is leading into global competition. This is going throughout the 1800s. Europe is constantly building and growing their empire. We're seeing a lot of countries really try to add to their country's imperialistic ways. We see Europe. Europeans are definitely looking at Africa as it emerges the prime target for expansion. Um, and so we see that this becomes the prime target of expansionism, and only two countries in all of Africa were not actually captured, and that would be Ethiopia and Liberia, that remained independent. But we see that imperialists are competing for territories throughout Asia, especially into China. We're seeing Japan is trying to get involved in industrialization. They're joining European nations in competition for China in the 1890s, mostly trying to get there before Europe does because of the resources that China has. Your answer to number one is here in blue right here. Most Americans gradually warmed to the idea of expansion overseas. It wasn't like, hey, well, Europe's doing it, so let's do it too. It was more of a gradual process. The manifestation, or sorry, manifest destiny from the Monroe Doctrine really opened up the door to push towards the Pacific Ocean, and so that gave us the kind of legal, justifiable ways to say, oh well, we if it's good for the benefit of the country, we can take it, and so this fueled this the Monroe Doctrine or manifestation or manifest destination or manifest destiny, sorry, really opened up what is called imperialism for America. And here was the idea again: desire for military strength, thirst for new markets, because there was just some areas where you could grow things like sugar, or you can get into other sort of plantation farming that wasn't able to do in the United States, and then ultimately belief in cultural superiority, really showing that, hey, America's great. Look how great America is, and all of our amazing selves. That's kind of the idea of really trying to build, like, show, like, hey, this is how awesome we are. So as we're seeing other nations establish their military presence throughout the globe, America leaders are advised the United States build up its own military strength, really kind of get to other locations around the globe, and really have an influence and power. We see Admiral Alfred T. Mann urges the United States to build a navy to compete with other nations. We see that he is really saying, hey, we need to beef up our navy, because you're seeing other European nations like Germany, Britain, they're really, France are really building up their navies to ultimately help them fight in potential wars. And so Mann and others really influenced the United States to build 9 steel-hulled cruisers between 1883 to 1890. And we see construction of modern-day battleships such as the Maine and Oregon transformed the country into the world's third largest navy at the time. We see by the late 19th century, advances in technology enabled American farms and factories to produce far more than American citizens could consume. And so technology is helping us in this ability to move forward. We see the United States, however, needed more raw materials to keep up with these factories' production. Um, um, oh gosh, marks. And so the new markets for agriculture, manufactured goods needed to be established. And so imperialists viewed that foreign trade as a solution to American overproduction and related problems to unemployment. I'm sorry, imperialists viewed this foreign trade as a solution to American overproduction and related problems to unemployment and economic depression. So basically, trying to the idea of, hey, let's just take over this country and their resources is going to help us get the resources we need to keep people employed, and not put us into a depression economically. So to justify the means of imperialism, we see Americans combine philosophy of social Darwinism, being that a belief that free market competition would lead to the survival of the fittest. But really, it became more of a belief of superiority of Anglo-Saxons. Like, we're white, we have power, we're gonna use it against you because you don't have it. And so this whole idea that we're bigger, better than you idea really was the only way to justify it, and that's not a really good justification in all arguments. They argued that the United States had a responsibility to spread Christianity and civilization to the world's inferior people. So we start to really marginalize and really go after other countries, because we use this viewpoint that we're civilized, that we're just better, that we're the only one culture who can really bring any sort of reasonability or rationality to the world. That really kind of really causes this whole superiority complex, and it really puts down other countries, because look, yeah, other countries were not as successful in their industries, and some of them didn't even have the industrial age, but that doesn't mean that their culture didn't matter and that they weren't civilized in their own way. But because we saw the world our way, it skewed our ability to see other countries, and that made us want to take over. So, one aspect that was happening was one part of American expansion, even further into the Pacific, comes from William Seward, who it was Secretary of State under Presidents Abraham Lincoln and Andrew Johnson. In 1867, Seward arranged for the United States to buy Alaska from the Russians, who for 7.2 million, and the Russians were like, "Yeah, we'll just get rid of it. We really don't need it." Um, some were kind of viewed this like from the how. It was very hard to persuade the House of Representatives to get the funding for this purchase. A lot of them thought, "Why are we buying this big ice box?" Or they called it the Seward's Folly. But eventually, they would be proven wrong, because in 1959, Alaska became a state, and at 2 cents an acre, which, by the way, that's pretty cheap, the United States had acquired not only land rich in timber, minerals, but ultimately oil as well. So it turned out to be a good deal, and it worked out well. Right around that same year that we captured or purchased Alaska, the United States was able to get the Midway Islands, which lie in the Pacific Ocean, about 1,300 miles north of Hawaii. Which, by the way, Midway Islands, remember that, because that's going to be key when we talk about World War II and their fight with the Japanese. No one lived on the islands, so the event did not attract much attention. However, the Hawaiian Islands were not too far away, and showed a lot of economical importance to the United States for nearly a century. We see that during that time in the 1820s, a lot of Yankee missionaries founded Christian schools and churches, trying to teach Christianity to the Hawaiians, and ultimately led to their children and their grandchildren to not just be there for Christianity, but to also become sugar planters. And we see that they sold most of their crop to the United States. So we see that these white Hawaiians start to gain an influence in the country. And so by the mid 1800s, we see American owned sugar plantations. 75% on the islands was part of the island's wealth. So these sugar plantations start to gain more of an influence because they're generating so much money on the island. And the plantation owners imported thousands of laborers from Japan and Portugal and China. But by 1900, foreigners and immigrant laborers outnumbered native Hawaiians about 3 to 1. So we're starting to see the Hawaiians were basically being uh, their population was dwindling based because on these new workers coming in, and ultimately some Americans eventually becoming a part of that country. So in 1875, the United States agreed to import Hawaiian sugar duty free, meaning that you actually had to pay the workers. Um, so over the next 15 years, Hawaiian sugar production increased 9 times because of this, because they actually had to pay for workers. In 1887, United States military and economic leaders pressure the Hawaii to allow naval base at Pearl Harbor, and that's your definition, everything in blue, becomes a refueling station, and ultimately becomes a key player into the capturing of Hawaii. So we see by 1890, McKinley Tariff eliminates the. Um, I'm sorry, my bad. I meant. I should be correction here. The duty free, meaning that they actually didn't have to pay um, too much. Sorry, production increased 9 times, not the price. I apologize. A little confungal, messed up. Basically the duty free, meaning that they actually didn't have to pay much for labor. So anyway, by 1890, McKinley tariff eliminates duty free status of Hawaiian sugar, which provoked a crisis because the Hawaiian sugar growers had to face competition from the American markets, and ultimately they didn't want to have to pay the duty for the plantation. So American planters really called for the United States to annex the islands in hopes to really make things a little bit easier for them. In 1887, white business strong armed or forced King Kalalukua to amend Hawaii's constitution to limit the vote to landowners only. But when Kalua died in 1891, his sister, Queen Luakalani, came to power and proposed removing the property owning qualifications for voting. Ultimately, this angered the business groups. So to prevent this from happening, they created a coup, which was they overthrew the government. Ambassador John L. Stevens organized a revolution with the help of Marines and overthrew the Queen and set up the government headed by Sanford B. Dole. Um, so basically, you want to write with his definition is that he headed the government that organized a revolution with help from Marines to overthrow the Queen. So there you go, of Hawaii. President Grover Cleveland did not like this and actually directed that the Queen be restored to her throne. However, Dole refused to do so, bit of a power play, and really, called Cleveland's bluff. And Cleveland was like, fine, I'll recognize you as the Republic of Hawaii. So Grover's kind of in a tight spot. He's like, fine, I'll just, whatever. And so anyway, Cleveland, however, refused to annex the islands. So that led in 1897, William McKinley, favoring the annexation and succeeded Cleveland as president, went ahead and obtained Hawaii. August 12th of 1898, Congress proclaimed Hawaii an American territory, although Hawaiians never got the chance to vote on this. So the Hawaiians were basically shut out from this. And by 1959, Hawaii became the 50th state in the Union. So there you go. Imperialism, it definitely, in some ways, yes, we increased our land, we added more states, but it also created a lot more problems and issues in our country. But we'll talk more about those problems with imperialism in section 2. See you then.